Welcome to Charlotte, North Carolina. It's the ACC Championship. The sun is out. It's high noon. And a duel between last year's championship game participants. Duke and Notre Dame meeting for the second time this season. Ross Bergmaster, the bagpiper, leading the Irish out. And this feels like a high noon duel. Pat Cavanaugh, the ACC Offensive Player of the Year, will stare down Duke's stalwart defenseman Kenny Brower, a three-time All-Conference defenseman, a three-time captain, and an All-American. Brennan O'Neill, the reigning Tewaaraton Award winner in the home stretch of his career, will try to solve Notre Dame and Irish goalie Liam Entenmann, who's the top netminder in all of Division I. The hardware is on display, and both of these teams looked every bit the part of a champion on Friday night. In the semifinals, Notre Dame vaporized Virginia. Duke smashed Syracuse. Notre Dame and Duke meeting for the second time this season. Anish Shroff alongside Matt Ward. Will Lynch at the faceoff X for Notre Dame. Cal Girard again taking the faceoff for Duke. The Blue Devils without their top faceoff man, Jake Naso, out for this ACC tournament. Girard, though, acquitted himself extremely well in Friday's win against Syracuse, but Lynch gets the first one.
And I think it's something to watch, right? I mean, Girard, impressive on Friday night, but Lynch is one of the best in the country. He's a tactician. He's dominant on his clamp, and right there, won that first one very easy, and quite frankly, at no point was that even competitive on the wings. And so that's going to be something to keep an eye on.
Eric Dobson wheels down the alley, spins it back to Chris Cavanaugh, using the pick from Dobson. Question mark dodged. Cavanaugh goes down. This Irish top six, Chris Cavanaugh, the number 2 scorer. Here's Pat Cavanaugh bringing his defender out up top. That's Henry Bard. Cavanaugh 7 points in the first meeting this year against Notre Dame, or against Duke. The freshman Patrick Jamison in goal for the Blue Devils as Jordan Faison, who doubles as a football star in South Bend, gets free. Jamison with a big first stop. As a freshman goalie this year, he has been nothing short of brilliant.
And that is a tactical difference there. Cavanaugh not being guarded by Brower, but by Bard. And I like that. Try something different, right? Like, if it works, great. Now you kind of have a solution if you match up again.
Speaking of tactical differences, number 2 in black, Andrew McAdory, started at attack on Friday night. It made all the difference. 5 goals, 1 assist, and it opened up this Blue Devils offense.
Yeah, it just is a game changer. Their 3 best offensive players now on the attack position versus during the regular season.
Hot shot by McGuire, whistles wide. Josh Zawada will dig it out. Now Dyson Williams ran out of the box. Zawada with the step on Napolitano, now picked up by Donovan on the switch. Bounce shot and a save off the cross of Dyson Williams. So Entenmann and Jamison both with an early save as the Irish set up the clear.
And both great saves. Again, Entenmann goes low, but he doesn't give up the top portion of the cage. He's on his knees there, but he's exploding up with his upper body. And it's a nice position for him because those bouncers, he's able to make his body wider, but also not give up the top portion of the cage.
Jamison in goal for the Blue Devils, had the best goals allowed average of any goalie in the ACC. Here comes Will Angrip, skip pass to Mr. Major League, Jake Taylor, for the first tally of this game. Taylor with his team leading 33rd goal.
And we're gonna get a look here of Entenmann in the cage. Just reads the release of Dyson Williams incredibly well, right? And you're gonna notice his body position, right? He's coming forward, and as he's down on his knees, you can see him exploding up, which makes those bounce shots less effective. And then again, talking to Coach Wojcik before the game, he's like, our second and third line middies, like in practice at times, can light up our defense. He's like, our strength, right? Pat Cavanaugh, Chris Cavanaugh, and Liam Entenmann, he's like, our strength is our depth. And if they can get goals and run efficient offense, like, how do you stop them?
We saw it on Friday. Notre Dame in that game got goals from a defenseman, a face-off man, an LSM, a short stick D-midi, and from its second and third midfields. Lynch is 2 for 2. Wearing number 40 today is Carter Parlett. In honor of the late Mike Sennett, former Notre Dame standout. Liam Entenmann wore 40 on Friday. He's wearing his customary 44 today. First midfield, Dobson, who's got a hammer of a lefty shot, face on with the great speed, and Devin McClain has it now. The transfer from Brown, where he played attack and was the Bears' leading scorer the last 2 seasons.
Right now, Pat Cavanaugh sets an on-ball pick. And just the tendency in college lacrosse is to run through those picks now.
Dobson, the crease feed for Taylor. Jamison Kangaroos out of the cage. Duke has arguably the best group of shorties in college lacrosse. Caputo, O'Connor, McGuire, and Gray. Caputo to McGuire. And all 4 of those are a threat to score in transition. How many times have we seen it, Matt? You get down to championship weekend, especially that last Monday. The team that's deeper in the midfield wins.
And oftentimes, right, it's the team that's able to create 1, 2, 3, 4 scoring opportunities in that transition. That's
Max Sloat couldn't get that one to go. And Ramsey gets away from McAdory. They've got Ben Johnston, the freshman, trapped on offense or on defense.
So if you're Duke so far, right, where did you have a lot of success early on against Syracuse? Who was McAdory? Hasn't touched the ball yet on either offensive possession. But maybe you build upon what you started to implement on Friday night.
Second midfield getting a run here. Riley Gray, Max Buzenkill, Will Angrick. Here's Gray. Charging down the alley. Has the matchup with Denenza. Gray got free, gives it back to Angrick. Plenty of time to shoot.
When you look at this Notre Dame, we have a short stick matchup here with Chris Cavanaugh against Denenza.
Gray puts one on cage and scores.
And that's just nice recognition from the Fighting Irish. But the point I was going to make, right, like usually when you see the second midfield, maybe a little less athletic, maybe a little bit smaller, super skilled. Notre Dame's bigger and faster, right? Like this is a first-team midfield on any other team in the country athletically. And right here, again, you're just going to see it's the awareness of Chris Cavanaugh. Just simple spacing 101. Stepping away. Riley Gray. Good offense can look easy at times, right? You get the matchup you identify. Now the defenses think we got to slide early, and it's literally 2 steps away from that slide man for Riley Gray that gets his hands open. That's just an adjacent pass, right? And it's great. It's all a function of Notre Dame's recognition.
9th of the season for Gray. Lynch and Gerard battling at the X. It's won by Will Lynch, 3 for 3.
2 of those clamps, though, won by Gerard, right? That, to me, like, Lynch is obviously very good at the X, but it's his ability to scrap when he doesn't win the clamp, and their wings to press down that I think they do at a different level than anyone else. They have the best wing game in the country.
Leaving Lynch out there, he'll operate behind the cage against Gerard. Now help coming for Zoli, picks him up.
But now Duke's in trouble here, right? You have
Jalen Seymour, the third midfield out there for Notre Dame. Gerard is out there. He's given up a lot of size and a lot of girth to Seymour. Left hand free, Seymour whistles it wide. Gerard, 5'6", 165. Seymour, 6'4", 210.
And there's still something happening here. Notre Dame has an uneven situation. And Duke able to get back in on defense.
Pat Cavanaugh flips it over. Fisher Finley. Back to Cavanaugh. Hesitation. Moving pick.
And it's interesting, right? I keep coming back to this like tendency now, hey, we're not trying to go below the pick or on top of it, we're just running through it. Refs don't oftentimes call that a cross-check or a penalty for the defensive player, and they're generating a lot more moving picks now as that strategy has kind of changed over years.
McAdory gets the touch. He was unstoppable Friday. With the way Notre Dame plays defensively, always switching, not caring about matchups, a little different than it was against Syracuse. McAdory going at the freshman, Sean Light, who's been just a shutdown long pole for the Irish this season. Now Charles Balsamo against Parlett.
Think about the freshman class in the ACC. Light, Millen, Duffy,
Tolman,
Faison. Like, we're losing generational talent after this year.
Jamison.
You're losing probably the best core group of seniors the ACC's ever had, and future looks bright still.
Notre Dame and Duke both come into the game ranked 1 and 2 in RPI. Last year, for context, the top 8 in the RPI all hosted a first-round game. Dobson gets down the alley, left-hand laser save. Jamison, that's a tough one to stare down from number 8.
And that's just some proof that goalies are crazy. Like, if you're Jamison, I'm running out of the cage when a player that size who can shoot it that hard is running unattested north-south your direction, and just to stand there poised and to not compromise your positioning is incredible.
Having spent way too much time around Quint Kesnick, I'll agree. There's another talented freshman, Ben Johnston. 18 goals. He started on the first midfield most of the year. Top 5 recruit. Duke's top incoming freshman. Now O'Neal bounces one offline. Zawada will get it. O'Neal in his last 3 games against Notre Dame, shooting 4 for 25.
And Conlon, the matchup, is a lefty, which poses challenges for left-handed players. I like the aggression there from O'Neal. I'd like to see him bend in a little bit more, get to that middle of the field to oppose a little bit more pressure.
O'Neal 2 assists away from 100 for his career. Got to the 200 goal plateau Friday. McAdory, low liner with 7 to shoot. So Wada will have to dig it out. Duke's struggling to get some good looks right now against Entenmann in this defense.
When we talked about Duke's defensive middies, Notre Dame's pretty good too. Ramsey.
Shot clock violation.
And look, I think Notre Dame's offense, right, they've shown the depth, right? 14 different goal scorers the last game. A couple different goal scorers today. What I think where they've shown the most improvement lately is their team defense. Like, their slide and recovery, their first slide, their second slide, like, there are never uncontested shots, always in the perfect position. And I think it speaks to your point earlier, they don't care about matchup. They're matchup indifferent, right? And not many teams can say, hey, we have the personnel to not care who we're guarding. They may be the only one.
And we've seen that for years. It was like that when Jerry Byrne was the defensive coordinator. It's been like that since Jerry Byrne left to take the Harvard job. Again, the second midfield getting a lot of run here. Chris Kavanaugh, now picked up by Brower. That's a battle you pay to see. There's Riley Gray. Again, the matchup today with Pat Kavanaugh. It's been Henry Bard guarding the elder Kavanaugh. Jamison gets away from Chris Kavanaugh, and Duke will set up the clear.
Jamison with 2 left-handed passes, too, out of the cage. Don't see that very often.
Friday against Syracuse, Duke scored 9 goals in the first quarter. Looking to get on the board. McAdory gives it up. Now O'Neal. McGuire's going to set the pick. O'Neal's going to wait for reinforcements. Aiden Denenza, O'Neal's high school teammate, slips. It has rained a lot the last few days. Now Johnston sweeps down the alley. Gets past Williams near the end line. Notre Dame keeps it in bounds. This is where the Irish excelled on Friday and really all season. 50-50 balls, the hustle points.
And again, typically, Not necessarily excited of your coach where your defenseman's running out of bounds to save one, throwing it back towards your own goal. But when you win 100% of the 50-50 opportunities, maybe it's worth the risk.
McLean had 4 goals in the Friday win against Virginia. Kavanaugh, a goal and 3 assists in that game.
McLean touched the ball for less than a second in that game and put 4 past noons in the cage for the Cavaliers.
Here is face-on. Dobson gets past Delgado. Over to Kavanaugh. Good recovery by Henry Bard. Dobson likes this matchup. Feeding Taylor, quick shot and a score. Dobson to Taylor, 3-zip Irish.
And it's the subtle things in lacrosse. Pat Kavanaugh had a great shot, but he knows his game. He doesn't have the hardest shot from the outside, and he has confidence in this offense that, you know, we could potentially do a little bit better. So Kavanaugh pulls the ball back, gets it to Dobson, who's got the matchup against the short stick, right? He doesn't shoot it there, and now you have Dobson with a favorable matchup, down to his right, and then Taylor just step into space, and the picture-perfect shot near post. Notre Dame picking up where it left off Friday night.
Duke had eliminated Notre Dame 5 straight times in the NCAA tournament, starting in 2010 with the C.J. Costabile goal in the national championship in overtime. We were on ACC PM the other day with Mark Packer and Taylor Tannenbaum talking about how we've seen Notre Dame take that last step where they were a program where in a lot of big games prior they would stub their toe, to now it's the program that shows up, not only plays in big games, they're never out of a big game, and they win the big games with consistency.
Yeah, they're making the plays when it matters most. And again, I think it's belief. I think it's Pat Kavanaugh. I think it's Liam Entenmann, right? Like you have these amazing players that make the biggest plays in the biggest moments. That's what differentiates them to the other great players in college lacrosse. Is just their feel for the moment.
51 in white. Pat Kavanaugh, the best to ever wear an Irish jersey. Flips it over to Angrick. Second midfield out there for the Irish. Riley Gray camped at X. He'll invert against O'Connor. Gray gets top side, and he's got his second goal. So this second midfield, which was so productive Friday, they've got 2 tallies today. Gray with 2 goals, and remember, Angrick assisted on Jake Taylor's first goal.
Notre Dame striking fear into every coaching staff in college lacrosse with their depth. Oftentimes, second midfield's going there to play slow, deliberate offense, kill some clock, rest your team. This unit improving every game, and athletically they're dominant, and a nice compliment to the first group.
Notre Dame has won every face-off so far. This one out of bounds, and it will go to Duke. So the first face-off win for the Blue Devils. And you got to remember, Duke is without Jake Naso, who's an All-American caliber face-off man. It's precautionary. They expect him back next weekend for round 1 of the NCAA tournament, being held out this weekend with a lower body injury. Josh Zawada, the Michigan transfer. How about the Wolverines last night, pasting Penn State? They needed to win the AQ in the Big Ten to get in, and they did so. That's 2 years in a row for Kevin Connery's group. Grant Mitchell. Duke now getting in its third midfield. O'Neal, the high jumper, swallowed off by Entenmann. Outlet pass, Ramsey. Here comes Ramsey. Absorbs the contact. Kavanaugh from the wing, yes! Entenmann makes the save, and it triggers transition, and it leads to offense. Notre Dame typing in caps lock in quarter number 1.
Defense to offense. Liam Entenmann faced up against O'Neal, takes that outside shot again, down to his knees, matches stick for stick, clear catch, eyes up, push in transition. Ramsey, a very talented two-way type player, and gets it to Chris Kavanaugh, the best outside shooter on this Notre Dame attack. He'll make you pay in transition. On our screen, Entenmann and Chris Kavanaugh. What we saw Friday night from Notre Dame was the most impressive performance all season. I think we're at a different level right now.
Sure feels that way.
I mean,
Lynch knocked it out of bounds. Duke ball.
Now, if you're Duke, they've transitioned to taking the first shot, not the right shot. Right? You're comfortable with Brennan O'Neal trying to make something happen, but play some offense.
Down to Maryland Payne.
Matt Janowski told Duke's offense, you have to stop being selfish. This is fundamentals. You can't play these guys like you played Hughes. They're a lot more athletic. Don't hold the ball through the shot clock. We have to play smarter and play our offense down here.
Notre Dame's defense is designed to make you move the ball. It tests your patience, and it makes you work for that high degree of difficulty pass. And if you're able to execute it, you can get looks.
And right now, Brennan O'Neal not on the field offensively for Duke.
Zawada against Napolitano. He left Michigan as the school's all-time leading scorer. Dyson Williams, yes, sir. Duke avoiding a first quarter shutout, and for Williams, career goal number 200. I feel like I'm a broken record. Peyton Cormier hit number 200 a few weeks back. Brennan O'Neal hit 200 goals last night. Now it's Dyson Williams.
It's a lot of goals.
That's a lot of goals.
But right here, Duke's best offensive set. Zawada with the hard dodge up the side, draws the slide. And when the slide happens, opportunity presents itself as long as you keep your composure. Zawada does a nice job regaining his balance, bangs the ball through X. Dyson Williams steps away from where the slide came, so he's making it a harder second slide for Notre Dame to get on his hands, and then the picture perfect release to the top portion of the cage.
Can Duke get a chance here in the waning seconds? McAdory, 3, 2, and a bouncer that skips wide of the net. Quarter one comes to an end. Duke avoids getting shut out in the first quarter for the first time this season with the late Dyson Williams goal. He hits the 200 goal mark, but it's the Irish picking up where they left off on Friday night. 2 from Taylor, 2 from Gray. The second midfield, the depth, with Entenmann providing the defense on the back line. 5-1 Irish in this ACC championship.
When you do get the ball, how do you execute better?
We were not fundamentally sound. We brought the stick in front of our face, we dropped the ball. We don't gain separation on a exchange pass. So those were 2 turnovers that sometimes, you tip your cap to your opponent, but sometimes it's on you. Those 2 were on us.
Thank you for the time.
You got it.
The Blue Devils, 1 goal in that opening quarter, 7 shots. Brennan O'Neal, who left the field late in that first quarter. He is back out there on the other end for Duke. But 0 for 2 in that first quarter, now 4 of his last 27 shooting against Notre Dame. And the Irish begin this second quarter with their third midfield. Walker, Finley, and Jalen Seymour, 26 in white, was a high school teammate of Brennan O'Neal's. Pat Kavanaugh using the Walker pick. Bard stays with Kavanaugh. Now Finley against Caputo. Off the cross of Seymour. He's able to keep it in bounds. Frizzoli all over him. Dislodged it. Seymour recovers. Still time to shoot.
And so far, Bard on Kavanaugh has done a really nice job on the one-on-one. The first matchup, Kavanaugh generated a lot of offensive opportunities. Not as much today, but this is what's becoming apparent for this Notre Dame team is it doesn't matter. you take one thing away, we're going to beat you in 3 other areas. No other team can do that, at least at this level. I'm not seeing one that has so many different ways they can make you pay.
McAdory against Light. McAdory turns the corner. Entenmann saw it all the way. Not much on the shot. And in that first meeting, Pat Cavanaugh brought Kenny Brower out to the high wing. Brower would prefer to defend goal line extended behind the cage. So now you bring Bard up, more comfortable out there. But the greater point, Pat Cavanaugh, for the better half of the quarterfinals and certainly championship weekend last year, was duct taped together. It didn't matter.
And that's what, look, that's greatness too. He just doesn't care. Like, I mean, like it takes the best player in the field to step away. Like, hey, we can beat them in different ways. It's actually better our team to attack in different areas. Like, where's your ego? He doesn't have one.
His brother Chris. Now Fulton Bayman. Bayman over to Pat Cavanaugh, who's got the short stick matchup with O'Connor. Cavanaugh gets underneath. Skip pass intercepted. That's Carpenter, who's been one of the great takeaway artists at Duke in his career. Overthrow, O'Neal had it for a moment, lost it. Ball died right near the sideline. Conlon comes up with it. Now the Irish push the other way. Fulton Bayman. McLean steps into one, unsettled, and McLean eats off the chaos.
Coach Danowski in his interview said it's the sloppy, careless turnovers. Notre Dame makes it hard to clear, but right there, Duke panics a bit, which leads to this transition opportunity, and a nice job by Bayman being patient, and it's a slow break, right? So it's not a true advantage on the attack to defenseman, but you had a 2-on-1 up top. He slowed down, recognized that, and let McLean fill in to get his hands free. And look, this is what he does best. Catch it, shoot it, put in the back of the net. McLean, for the transfer from Brown, has made such an impact for this Notre Dame Irish team.
New faceoff man for Duke, Luke Engelke. It doesn't matter. Lynch wins another. Now, Will Lynch, going into championship weekend last year, was below 50% at the faceoff X. Went 60% in the semifinal and the final against Petey LaSala and Jake Naso for the most part, and he's carried that into really just an outstanding season this year as a junior. Been close to 60% this season. Gray's got 2 goals. He'll invert again. Bayman setting the pick. Notre Dame has flexed its depth here in Charlotte this weekend. Here comes Pat Cavanaugh all the way over the shoulder of Jamison, who went down. Pat Cavanaugh with his first goal, his first point.
Cavanaugh in the first matchup had a lot of success operating from up top. He's got a different matchup this game against Bard. But just a hard drive down the left side, low angle. Jamison comes off the post a bit. Usually very sound in cage from a body positioning perspective. But you can tell Jamison didn't get a read on where that shot was going, and he kind of flinched a little bit, moved his legs off the post. Cavanaugh sneaks it by the near post.
2 goals in less than a minute for the Irish. They lead 7-1. Timeout Duke. The Irish have scored on 7 of their 12 shots. Lynch wins another faceoff, and that's been part of the problem for Duke. John Danowski told Marilyn Payne after the first quarter they've got to get better at faceoffs. Again, without Naso, you do cut Duke some slack. Naso's a game changer at the faceoff X. You're running out Engelke, you're running out Gerard, and Gerard took 29 faceoffs on Friday. He only had 1 game this year where he had taken more than 10, and now you're asking him on 1-day rest to come back and go up against Will Lynch, who's used to taking a lot of faceoffs, even with short rest.
Yeah, look, I think if you're going to do keys to the game, moving forward against Notre Dame, it's like, hey, you got to win 80% of the faceoff X. You just can't give this team with how they're playing confidently, the depth that they have. They will just wear you down if they get possession after possession. Because remember, they're winning the X. They're also winning on the ride. They're also winning on the 50-50 ground balls. They just are relentless, and if they have possession after possession, you've got no shot.
Yeah, Lars Tiffany said that in the first quarter yesterday. You got to get the ball against this team, and today they've possessed the ball for the majority of the game. Friday, it felt like 5-6 minutes before Virginia touched the ball.
Does Virginia feel better about itself right now?
I think so, after Michigan won.
But watching what Notre Dame's doing to Duke as well, this is a team that...
Selection show tonight. The women's field will be announced at 9, the men at 9:30. You can watch on ESPN 2. Another turnover by Duke. Johnston in the crease. Chris Cotter, Paul Carcaterra, and Quint Kesnick get to make the scenic ride from Ithaca, New York to Bristol, Connecticut. Ivy League championship, Penn and Princeton starting in about 18 minutes over on ESPNU. And now that's another game. Both likely need to win to get in. Ivy's got an AQ. I'm not sure either of those get an at-large. Penn's interesting. Their RPI has moved up a little bit. They have the 2 Cornell wins. They have the Duke win. If they beat Princeton, they're in as an AQ, potentially a first-round host as well.
And look, they've got an amazing goalie, a great defenseman. They can play methodical, playing great lacrosse.
Busenkill swings it to Kavanaugh. Tries to shake Bard. Angrick setting the pick. Bard keeps the matchup. Now Angrick against Tomas Delgado. Angrick with the left hand. Jamison makes the save. You and I did the Penn-Duke game early on in the year, and we walked away just wowed by Brendan Lavelle, who owned his matchup against Brendan O'Neill that night.
Physically, too. And that's easier said than done. He's a big physical defenseman, not flashy, but body position, thoughtful checks. And again, I'm watching this game, and like the word that comes to mind for like Notre Dame is effortless. Like everything they're doing just seems composed, simple. Duke, on the other hand, having a hard time running it out, stepping in the crease, setting illegal picks. Like you just can't do those things when Notre Dame is clicking on all cylinders.
Another Duke possession that ends without a shot.
And now Notre Dame's got Kavanaugh with a short stick matchup. Usually not a good sign for the defense.
Kavanaugh's going to isolate Jake Caputo, the son of Ronnie Caputo, Duke's defensive coordinator. Now the slide coming. Bard able to pick up Kavanaugh. Dobson runs out of the box. There's the ACC Player of the Year. McLean gets sandwiched.
And I like the no
And
call.
Kavanaugh tried to touch that with his hand. I don't know if the official saw it. Chris Kavanaugh shovels it back to Dobson.
Every extra possession all weekend, Notre Dame.
Face on. MVP of the Sun Bowl for Notre Dame football. Dobson. Right hand, that one hits the pipe. It's going to be Duke ball. Closest to the ball on a shot when it goes out of bounds. Awarded possession. And it's Jamison and McLean saying, hey, we got a flag down.
Black 29, unnecessary, 1 minute. Reset the clock.
Are they going to get Kenny Brower?
They aren't. Again, I think this is just going to be evidence of it's not worth throwing the body around in college lacrosse. Trying to protect the players. Dobson running to the most dangerous position in the field, sweeping to the middle. Brower with a big check.
So the best man-up unit in the country by far will have the extra man.
And so what was wrong with that hit there? Again, to me, it was too hard. And that's fine. It's the refs call it. It's a consistent call. right? And so just know that as a player that it's not worth giving a Notre Dame team that, you know, is just about 100% on the season.
Feels like it, doesn't it? McLean, big save. Jamison couldn't corral the rebound. It's knocked out of bounds. And it'll be Duke ball. They came into this game, Notre Dame did, 72% on the man up, 4 for 5 yesterday against Virginia. At the current rate, if they finish at 72%, it would be the single best man up efficiency in the history of Division I men's lacrosse. Can 34 get going against Notre Dame? Brennan O'Neill, reigning Tewaaraton Award winner, last year's ACC Player of the Year, MVP of the World Games last summer.
Look, last year in the finals, they got down big and came back and tied it up. The difference being now, though, face-off X discrepancy, that's a pretty big hill to climb right now, where Notre Dame is winning every face-off. No make it, take it in this game.
And too many possessions early in this game have just been empty for Duke. Either bad shots, poor quality shots. Again, O'Neill rushed that one. You could tell, trying to get going. He's 0 for 3.
And becoming predictable in his release points. Entenmann knows when you're shooting on the run from that far, 90% of the time the ball's going low. And Entenmann reads it, he gets down there, cleanly catches the ball. If you're gonna take that shot, you have to shoot it to the top portion of the cage.
Jamison with the save at the other end. Quick outlet. Friendly fire. Frizzoli able to recover for Duke.
Can they throw a flag for a big hit on your own team?
Denenza and Delgado.
Denenza lowered his shoulder nicely. It was good matchup here for Duke. McAdory against Nick Harris.
McAdory's got that great first step. Skip pass. Johnston from the outside. And the freshman hits.
Duke's offense, when they're making a couple passes and drawing slides and initiating the offense to throw a pass rather than score, finding some success. Ben Johnston, Duke's leading goal scorer as a freshman. Right here, McAdory draws the slide. And again, it's that spacing where he steps away, gets his hands free, shows the power. I mean, Entenmann is on this low, but just too much pace from Johnston, buries that one in the back of the cage.
With that goal, Matt, though, if you're Notre Dame, is there a part of you that goes, okay, if that's the shot that you need to get, I'll take my chances with Liam Entenmann all day?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, look, it's good offense. It's not terrible defense. You're giving up a 15-yard shot, and when you have a goalie of Entenmann who's going to save it more often than not, like, okay, if that's what you're going to have to do to beat us, Notre Dame's comfortable. Right, but the difference when you watch Notre Dame, when they're getting shots, it's 5 yards closer. That doesn't work. Their spacing's just been better.
Procedure call against Duke.
19, his 19th of the season.
Cloud cover has started to resume here at American Legion Memorial Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina, site of the ACC Championship. Down to Maryland.
Matt, you mentioned how fresh Notre Dame plays and how clean they've been. It's a huge testament to the load management of this offense, as well as what the work is on the sideline by the training staff to keep ND cool. These iced towels around the necks of all the players every time they come off the field. Duke, on the other hand, just looking totally taxed.
Mandy Merritt, head trainer for Notre Dame, one of the best in the biz. Now, the work she did championship weekend last year to get Pat Cavanaugh game ready.
Recreate a hamstring is pretty impressive.
Chris Cavanaugh, his skip pass goes awry. Seymour can't track it down. Turnover by the Irish, their 6th. Only a 5-goal game, 3:30 to go. Can Duke find some momentum late in this first half?
It's just like a weird thought, right? Where it's like, if you're playing Notre Dame, it's like, do you short stick Chris Cavanaugh, right? How crazy is that? But their midfield, what they're showing now, can beat you in so many different ways that you have to try different things. And Cavanaugh, as good as he is, isn't an elite dodger. He's tough against a short stick. He's probably going to have some success. But maybe it forces some turnovers like we just saw.
Duke with its third midfield out there. McAdory trying to shake light. Dyson Williams up top, missed the cage. And again, Notre Dame will be comfortable giving up those long outside shots. Brennan O'Neill, don't see him out there on the field. Been running him out of the box a little bit in this second quarter. 26 in black is Reed Landon, the junior.
Starting to think a little bit too. O'Neill took a shot in the game Friday night.
Yeah.
NCAA tournament still ahead of you. Do you make sure to protect him?
Zawada to Williams, save Entenmann. It'll stay with Duke. In the larger scope of things, the outcome of this game, more or less irrelevant. Notre Dame seems to have locked up the #1 seed. Duke, win or lose, again, looks likely to be the 2 seed. Landon shot saved by Entenmann, another outside shot. And that leads to a quick outlet. Here comes Buckner. Former Notre Dame and Alabama quarterback, got a look. And Taylor's got the backup. I would imagine, Syracuse, Hopkins, Syracuse 3-4. And then it'll get interesting. Is Denver a 5? Where does Virginia fit in? Does Maryland still get to be on the host line? What about Penn State after the loss? Their RPI has now dropped to 9. Georgetown is in the top 8 of RPI. Does that mean they get a first-round game? McLean off the feed. It's 8-2 Notre Dame. One thing is clear, definitively. There is one team this season that has risen above everybody else. You're watching them. They're wearing white and gold.
And when they weren't playing their best lacrosse, they were winning, right? 4-0 in the ACC. Now it's just a whole different level. And again, if you compare Duke's offense, right? Dyson Williams catches the ball inside, hands-free, but he's 12 yards out. Notre Dame catches it hands-free. It's on the doorstep with McLean. Like their offensive positioning and their ball movement, just otherworldly right now compared to what else we're seeing in college lacrosse.
2 assists for Dobson. It's a part of his game from his freshman year now until his senior year. He's gotten better and better as a passer every year. And when you look at his raw numbers this year, they don't really jump out at you. 14 goals, 10 assists for a guy who was a first-team All-American midfielder. But then when you talk to coaches and you turn on the tape, Matt, how many times is he involved in the hockey assist? He's getting a short stick. He moves the defense, and he opens up things for guys like Taylor, McLean, and obviously the Kavanaughs.
And Notre Dame forces more slides, particularly out of the midfield. Right, if you're dodging as a mini and you start getting that crease slide that comes out, that's when you're in trouble because you're now overweight on the near side of the field, leading to opportunity back post.
A timeout with 1:13 to go in this second quarter. Notre Dame up 8-2. Irish looking for a 10th straight win. Headlines from college lacrosse. Congratulations to Sacred Heart going to the NCAA tournament for the first time. They beat Manhattan in the MAC title game. Georgetown in overtime. They needed overtime in the Big East semis and championship. They get past Villanova. 6 straight Big East tournament titles. Georgetown has the best win in the nation. They beat Notre Dame. Is this the year Kevin Warren and company can break through and get to championship weekend? St. Joe's could be a dangerous out. They've been on a roll. They pulled away late from Richmond and Michigan, Penn State. Boy, make it take it lacrosse. Michigan never gave Penn State a chance and made one of the best goalies in D1, Jack Fracyon, look very mortal last night.
Yeah, if you look at the automatic qualifiers, 7 of 9 decided. A lot of impact in these 2 games here, particularly that Ivy League game, what seedings will look like. But again, you mentioned that St. Joe's team. They're fun to watch. A lot of Canadian flair, big, physical, mean, amazing passes, right? Offensively, like if you're not buttoned up defensively, they have the opportunity to knock off one of the big boys.
Oh, we saw them a couple of years ago. They almost went and beat Yale.
And Penn, too, a couple years after that, right? They were really close in that game against a loaded Penn team.
Marilyn, you were in Duke's huddle. What did you find out?
John Danowski wants his defense to talk. He says you've got to communicate and you have to listen to each other to stop this onslaught. I know that we can. And on the other end, Matt Danowski asking his offense to expect success. He said, you know you can, but you've got to get on the side of it where you believe. What's it going to take? How many goals deficit is it going to take for us, he said, to go out there and be better?
What does good offense for Duke look like?
Look, if I'm Coach Danowski, honestly, it's like no more shots from the midfield, sweeping to the middle of the field up. Like Entenmann is reading them so cleanly. Like, they got to play team offense, attack from the attack position, try to get your hands, feet a little bit closer. It just doesn't work. Sweeping to the middle at 12 yards, all your weight and momentum going towards the sideline, thinking that you're going to get enough pop on that release to beat the best goalie in the country. I mean, Duke is completely thinking now, like, what are we getting? Like, we have no shot on beating Entenmann because of the early offense that they're creating when they should be more patient.
Yeah, we talked about it when Johnston got that goal from the outside, almost a false flag, false sense of confidence. That shot's not going to work for you repeatedly.
And it's definitely not going to work off a dodge, right? Off a pass, maybe you got an opportunity. Off a dodge, no chance.
Chris Kavanaugh picked up by Brower. Shot clock violation. It was dangerously close to a delay of game.
You could actually see Taylor saw that happening, ran to go get the ball and try to stop it.
I've seen that called a delay of game before. Final ticks, 2, 1. Time expires in half number 1. This Notre Dame machine continues to roll. Winners of 9 straight. They've beaten Duke 5 in a row. A Duke team that scored 18 Friday night, looked unstoppable against Syracuse, held to 2 goals in the first half. And again, everybody getting involved for the Irish. 2 more for McLean. Gray's got 2. Taylor's got 2. Irish 1 half away from an ACC championship. In the shadow of Uptown Charlotte, the ACC championship, Notre Dame, the 1 seed, leading the 3 seed Duke 8-2. After 1 half of play, the Irish looking to make it 10 straight wins overall, 6 in a row against the Blue Devils. Friday night, both of these teams look like nobody could beat them if they play their A game. The difference today, Notre Dame has brought their A game. Yeah,
Notre Dame right now playing at a different level, right? It's the relentlessness, it's their depth, it's their X's and O's. I mean, they're putting it all together. And right now, I think Duke's kind of thinking, like, what can we do to win a matchup to get close enough to beat the best goaltender in the country? And there's not much.
Entenmann has been superb in cage for Notre Dame, and it's the depth of scoring from the Irish over this weekend, over the course of the season, but really against Virginia, against Duke, that has just been staggering. It's the type of depth that we know can carry you deep into May, and they can carry you to another championship. But there have been too many lapses of inconsistency. You're about to enter a period now where the margin of error more or less disappears.
Yeah, and I think I've changed potentially my opinion on that. I don't think Notre Dame plays their best. I don't think anyone's beating them. Just in terms of the numbers they can run at you, the experience they have, the belief that they have. But again, I do think this is a tough matchup for Duke because Notre Dame's defense doesn't care about matchups, right? Like, anyone can guard anybody, so it doesn't create chaos. They're not worried specifically like other teams may be, and so it makes it just harder to get uncontested shots.
Duke is without its starting faceoff man today, Jake Naso. Johnston's got 1 of the 2 Duke goals. O'Neal looking for his first. McAdory had 5 goals Friday. Help coming from Donovan. Now there's the switch. O'Neal against Conlon. O'Neal on the run, lefty, missed too high.
But you could see there, that's the type of shot you want, right? He's going north-south. Realize Entenmann's tendency to go try to hit it to the top portion of the cage, but look, it's the subtle things that Notre Dame does, right? So when they slide, they extend out and create pressure, which makes it harder as a team to make the pass, and they can recover more effectively and efficiently.
Duke now working with the shot clock inside of 10. O'Neal stopped by Entenmann, who moved up to the top part of the crease to take away the angle.
And that's not something you see from him typically in the cage. He loves to stay on the goal line. And he's just showing that, like, he just knows the game so well, and ultimately he can beat you in so many different ways in the cage. Knew O'Neal was running out of angle, stepped up and minimized his ability to see net.
8 saves for Liam Entenmann. He's now 4 away from 700 career saves.
And look, I think obviously Entenmann, we know how good he is, but credit the defense for Notre Dame. They really aren't giving Duke a ton of good scoring opportunities. Every shot contested, everyone further away than you typically like to see.
McLean's shot hits Jamison right in the chest. Now the clear, getting adventurous. Jamison able to pick it up. Duke has to get it across midfield before that shot clock hits 60. Chris Kavanaugh bothering Brower. Chris Kavanaugh is down. Duke gets it across. Kavanaugh on his knees behind the play.
I think he took one in the hip there.
And they're going to stop play.
That was the concern in this game coming into it. Yeah, he's going to get a hip pointer here, I think, which that can linger. Right, I think he took that right here. It's either a Charlie horse or a hip pointer, but again, it's just a function of the way they play. I'm sure he'll be itching to get back in there in the next possession, but maybe we can take a look here, right? It's going to be right there, right? I think it looks more front, so maybe not as much a hip, but like right in your quad muscle there.
And nothing malicious. That was Chris Kavanaugh trying to ride. And Kenny Brower's a big boy at 6'2", almost 220.
Yeah, I think it's like a dead leg. You know, where you get hit just in that wrong spot in that big muscle in your quad.
Charles Balsamo against Tyler Buckner. Now Johnston against the bagpiper Bergmaster. Parlett comes out to greet him. 40 in white, normally number 21. Carter Parlett's been the unsung hero of this Irish team in that locker room. Denenza feeds the middle. Balsamo ran out of real estate. Just didn't have the balance. Now Johnston on the rollback. Dislodged. There's Parlett making a play.
It's just team defense is on another level right now. That was good offense from Duke, but better defense from Notre Dame.
Parlett stays with Balsamo. Zawada. Again, the shot clock dips below 10. Zawada's got the shorty Buckner. Zawada, crease feed. Williams behind the back, and it comes to Conlin off the deflection.
And I don't know if that was a save from Entenmann or off the post.
Notre Dame with trouble on the clear. Duke gets it back with a fresh 80. If you're Duke, and winning this game's important. O'Neal puts it on the empty net with Entenmann so far out. Great recognition by O'Neal. And you never know the play that causes the pendulum to swing.
So I had a feeling that Entenmann makes a save here on Dyson Williams. And we're going to take a look. I think this is going to be otherworldly, right? I think you're going to see him drop his hands low, but get the butt end up and make that save. And then off the post from Entenmann. And then Entenmann, maybe a little excited after that amazing save, got confused and thought he was a long stick defenseman running out, leaving the net uncontested. And you can see Coach Corrigan.
What are you doing?
I don't need you to do that. Stay in the cage. Right, you're going to see him here. I think. And so now.
Yeah, does he think that his team has the ball? Well, no. I'm not sure what he's thinking.
Obviously, Taylor's thinking. I don't know what he's thinking.
So Brennan O'Neal gets his first goal. 6 shots, that one on an empty net. Face-off now won by Duke.
Scored by number 34,
O'Neal now for his career up to 202 career goals. Slow, tried to thread it to Papendick.
So the difference between what Notre Dame's doing offensively at Duke, Notre Dame's throwing that through X.
So Water recovers.
Duke lucky to get the ball back, but again, Johnson's throwing that, or Sloat's throwing that through X, and then they're attacking.
McAdory got the step, just couldn't hit the cage.
Blue Devils avoiding doing the extra step that typically leads to a better opportunity.
O'Neal sizes up Conlon. Rolls it back. Now Dyson Williams ran out of the box on Friday. He's been doing that most of the day today. Zawada. O'Neal. Turns. Antonin snags it. The O'Neal goal with Entenmann far from the cage, the only tally by either team in this third quarter. The ACC does not have an automatic qualifier, so no AQ to the tournament for the winner, but again, the feeling seems to be Notre Dame win or lose is the 1 seed, Duke win or lose will be the 2 seed. Brackets revealed 9:30 tonight on ESPN2, women's bracket at 9 p.m.
And Chris Kavanaugh back in. Should he be at this point?
Now that becomes a topic now. Hot shot from the pole, it's Carpenter. Duke closes to within 4. A little pound of the chest by Carpenter. And even though the result, the outcome in the grand scheme doesn't matter, with the history and the backstory with these two teams, you can tell from Carpenter's emotion.
Belief matters.
Belief matters.
Absolutely.
If Duke walks away from Charlotte saying, hey, we finally beat Notre Dame, that may matter 3 weeks from now.
And it's compete with Notre Dame, right? I mean, look, at the end of the day, if you lose by 1 or 2, you're like, oh, you know, like, hey, that's saying it's hard to beat a team 3 times. That statement doesn't have as much weight when you win by 10 in one of those matchups, right? Then you start to think like, hey, we'll play them 100 times and we're gonna win 99 of those, right? So it's, I get where you're at from a mental, from a psyche perspective, but not winning faceoffs, 11 of 15 for Notre Dame at the X.
Gerard hit with a faceoff violation. And if you're Duke, and let's say you fall a couple of goals short, you can walk away thinking, okay, another crack with maybe Jake Naso with the faceoff X. That may be the difference. But Notre Dame has had this team's number. They've won 5 in a row against Duke. The game they played in Durham last month, Notre Dame led for most of the way. Then Duke came back, tied the game at 11 before Notre Dame used a 4-1 fourth quarter run to seal the win.
Notre Dame defense, or excuse me, Duke's defense settled down nicely here, playing a little bit better to start this second half.
Face on toward the cage, behind the back, Taylor. He's a magician.
The poise on Faison's dodge here. To know he has a short stick matchup. No need to rush to get the ball out of your stick. Taking it to the cage. And then Taylor showing near side, whipping it behind the back. Look at the placement here, this angle to the far post. Notre Dame offense clicking on all cylinders, up 9-4.
Second of 3 meetings between Danowski's Devils And Corrigan's Irish this season. Second of potentially 3 meetings. Lynch and Gerard, and Gerard has it. Now he gets out of the ambush. I go back, Maryland in 2017, Matt, remember where they supposedly had all sorts of issues at the face-off X, and then late season you find some depth there. I believe it was Garino, right? Came out of nowhere. Didn't come out of nowhere, came out of the doghouse and was a big part of Maryland's run to a national championship. Cal Gerard, the way he's played against Syracuse, bounced back today after a little bit of a tough start against Will Lynch. But it may give you another option now if Naso's not 100% May.
At least a changeup too, right? Just to mess with Lynch's timing and have a different approach. Incredible opportunity for them.
Ben Johnston with his second goal. A 20-goal freshman season for the young man from Lake Forest, Illinois. That's your neck of the woods, right?
Just a couple towns north. Big physical athlete, Ben Johnston. First Duke midi to get one by Entenmann off the dodge. Again, sweeping to his right hand, off hip. Again, you see Entenmann is mere inches from making that save as well. Read it right, but Johnston gets it far enough to the post to get the Blue Devils within 4 once again.
9-5 the score now. And Gerard finding some mojo at the X. Young man from Long Island, the freshman.
His second of the game, 20th goal of the season.
Gerard making some adjustments. He's been battling at the draw, at the X, right? He's won a number of them, but kind of got bodied by Will Lynch and the wings from Notre Dame, but doing a nice job here, winning 3 straight, keeping his composure.
Duke in the midst of a 3-1 run. A goal here certainly changes the complexion of the game. O'Neal against Conlon.
And Duke really controlling this third quarter, 3 of 8 shooting, while Notre Dame's only taken 2 shots.
Nice spin move, Balsamo, Papendick, O'Neal, one more, Zawada save Entenmann.
I would have liked to see O'Neal shoot that one there. Actually decreased angles. Zawada does actually a nice job stepping up the field to try to create more angle, but O'Neal, predominantly a lefty, maybe not comfortable shooting that one with his right hand, but I think that was the better opportunity off a nice ball movement. Duke's trying to figure out what it's going to take to generate high-quality scoring opportunities.
And Entenmann's got a new stick, so that play where he was caught out of cage when Brennan O'Neal scored on the empty net, we showed the replay. He makes the save with the butt end of his stick. The stick broke, so he had to go get a new one, and that's why he was caught. Angrick turns, scores, going low on Jamison. Notre Dame gets one back. It's 10-5.
The efficiency of what Notre Dame is putting on the field offensively. Had a hat trick in the semifinals. Again, this Notre Dame second midfield is maybe a harder matchup from a dodging perspective, right? Like, they are showing that they can operate at the 5-and-5 with incredible efficiency and just be taxing on this Duke Blue Devils defense.
Lynch wins another clamp. All right, Matt. Notre Dame is going to go into this NCAA tournament as the favorite to repeat. How do you stack the contenders after the Irish?
And that's a hard question, right? I think Notre Dame has now elevated themselves to pretty substantial favorite, right? I think Duke, Virginia. I liked Penn State.
Virginia, despite the 4-game losing streak.
Sure, I think if they, think about when they won in 2011, they lost 4 or 5, and they found it in an overtime game against Bucknell in the first. Like, things can change, right? Look what right now Notre Dame's doing to Duke. You can say Duke is, not there. Like, I just don't know what that pecking order would be. I think Syracuse can be dangerous against teams, particularly with their ability to push in transition with English and Stevens.
Walker has it stick checked away. That's going to go to Duke. A team like Penn State, up until last night, you felt really good the way they were playing with Fraschion in goal. Malone's having an All-America type season. Trainer's been outstanding. And then they lose 16-4 at Michigan. Maryland struggled, especially offensively down the stretch. Braden Erksa got hurt.
Cornell may not make the tournament, but they lost to this Notre Dame team by 1 when, quite frankly, they could have won that game. So will they be in the tournament? Like, if they are, like, it's all matchup based, right? And I think it's trying to figure out who matches up well against this Notre Dame team.
McAdory wanted Williams. Johns Hopkins is another one. I know they lost to Michigan in the Big Ten tournament semis, but they've really put together a great season. They played Notre Dame tough in the quarterfinals last year. You got Denver still lurking as Georgetown caught some late season fire, a couple of overtime wins in the Big East tournament.
It's going to be the teams against Notre Dame that feel comfortable actually playing slow.
Which Georgetown did.
Georgetown does. Again, I don't think Virginia does, right? They like to pace it up.
Antomin gets career save number 700. Right off the body, denying Johnston a hat trick. It belongs to the Irish.
So really, coming into this, I thought, man, I think there's one of 7 teams can win. Perspective has changed.
Yeah.
I just think this Notre Dame team, look, we knew how good they are. It's the depth that's just stood out to me. And again, I think, when you have the best goalie too, like that's usually what happens when you need an upset is your goalie steals a game. And unfortunately for the rest of the country, it's Liam Entenmann on the best team, stealing goals. Right there, gets his 700th save in his career.
You have played with all-time level goalies. When you watch what Entenmann's done in the full body of work, I mean, in your eyes, is he, in that conversation, especially if he wins another national championship, but he's already banked one. He was the MOP. Is he in that conversation when we talk about the great goalies in the last 20, 30 years of college lacrosse? Nice move on the doorstep. Chris Kavanaugh. He looks to be okay. It's 11-5.
I think the answer is yes. Look, if he wins again, like no question he's in the conversation for the best college career from a goalie, right? Like he's close. And again, I think maybe he doesn't get some of the recognition because he's not like a flashy personality per se, kind of quiet, goes about his business. And so he's just fantastic. But again, look at this Notre Dame team. We talked about, all right, Chris Kavanaugh, maybe not the greatest dodger, but he just took Kenny Brower to the hopper with the nice, strong wrists. The inside roll, steps up the field. I mean, his stick touches the ground. So if you're kind of Kenny Brower, you're like, what do I need to do to dislodge the ball? And Chris Kavanaugh now on the sidelines. I do think if you're Notre Dame, potentially time to look to rest, or at least drain the shot clock down on offense to have this game go by quicker at this point. Seems to me like, barring injury,
I'd imagine if you're both coaches, getting out of here healthy right now is priority number one.
Right.
You're not playing for a chance to get into the NCAA tournament. Both teams are in. I don't see seeding impacted by the outcome of this game. Again, you never know what the selection committee does. And there's 4 new members this year. In the past, it's been heavily weighted toward RPI. Notre Dame RPI number 1, Duke RPI number 2 entering play. The outcome of this game would not change that. Denenza to McAdory. Less than a minute to go in the third. Irish with a 6-goal lead.
Now, like, what other team could you slot in at number 2, right, if it's not Duke?
And again, I keep going back to that. I don't have an answer. O'Neal, Williams. Denenza couldn't scoop it. Popped into the air by Buckner. Zawada had it, went off his helmet. Denenza with a rocket. Entenmann another save. Flag down. McAdory a little slow getting up and walking gingerly.
The foul's on White. 4-0 White. Interference, 30 seconds.
First man up opportunity for Duke. 42% on the season. Yeah, O'Neal doesn't even go down. That's how strong he is.
They have been consistent year-round on, body checking. But that, to me, look, picture perfect. Good defense. He was the ball carrier. He had in the stick. He wasn't even taking a shot. Like, he was protected. Right? Like, he could see the contact coming.
Yeah. Called that way Friday night. Been called that way a lot of the season. Not just in the ACC.
And it's not changing anytime soon, right? And you make adjustments, and you can be physical but without laying body checks.
Final seconds. Williams puts one on Cage, and now Duke probably will hold the ball here to make sure they have possession when the fourth quarter begins. So Duke will start the fourth quarter with the extra man. No face-off, down by 6. Health and getting through this game and being clean for round 1 and beyond is of paramount importance for two teams who have national championship aspirations.
And Notre Dame's not a team to do this, but, like, do you throw a zone out at some point, protect your players, work on it, see if it's something you can, implement later on in the season if somehow some team figures out how to, cause you chaos in the offensive sets.
Now that's been a good look always. Dyson Williams camping out in the middle of the defense on the extra man. He leads the nation in EMO goals. He tacks on one more.
'50th goal on the season. And again, right here, just a simple 3-3 set, 2 men cut to the crease. Zawada with the vision to see through Balsamo. It looks, it's almost a little, like, I don't know if they ran the play the right way. They cut 2 men to the middle of the field. And Zawada's still able to throw that skip down to Dyson Williams. When you run man-up offense, you don't tend to try to put 2 people in the similar area because it allows 1 man to guard 2. But nonetheless, Duke gets one on the board.
Well, technically, it's an even strength goal. 11-6. There is a chance, depending on how far Duke plays into May, that O'Neal and Dyson, in some order, could leave as the top 2 goal scorers in the history of Blue Devils lacrosse. O'Neal is at 202 with 1 today. Williams at 201 with 2 goals today. There's Pat Cavanaugh, turbines around to X.
We talked about sort of like, that's a great shot if he lets that go. He just knows he's got someone hung up now. He's going to get a better opportunity, whether it's himself or finding a teammate.
Duke's all-time leading goal scorer is Justin Gutterding with 212. Cavanaugh, again, will value the clock. Booze and kill. Freshman second line midi. Frizzoli hammers Angrick. That draws multiple flags, so Notre Dame will go man up, and 3 flags on the field. Chris Kavanaugh looking for Buzenkill, who scores. Somehow he fit that pass into the tightest window.
Take a look at the penalty here. That's the definition of a hold, up high. But again, Engrick gets the ball out. They maintain possession. And with 5 seconds left on the shot clock, they put their 12th on the board. What a handle by Buzenkill. Again, just shows the skill and the depth, right? Like, Buzenkill hasn't made much of an impact on the offensive end.
Ninth goal of the season. He had 3 points Friday. Now, that was the most impressive part about Notre Dame's Friday win against Virginia. 18 goals, 14 of them came from players outside of their top 3 on attack and outside of their first midfield.
And look, that started last year, right, with the Kavanaugh injury and the hamstring. They had to make adjustments. In that semifinal game against Virginia, early on, they tried to see could Pat Kavanaugh make an impact against Kastner, and they adjusted, and they started attacking from their midfield, and it changed the course of that game and tilted the field in Notre Dame's advantage.
Third midfield in there, starting attack still out there. The Kavanaugh brothers and Jake Taylor, who's got a hat trick today. Now Pat Kavanaugh's got McGuire over to Jalen Seymour.
Pat Kavanaugh realizing, hey, we're down on the bottom of the shot clock. Let's milk it a little bit more. He's got a short stick matchup.
Up top to his brother Chris. The goal is good, and if they give Pat Kavanaugh an assist, it'll be the 38th time we've seen the Kavanaugh to Kavanaugh cocktail.
I think he gets credit for an assist on that one. Again, it's just this patient offense. Kavanaugh understanding and recognizes he is guarded by his short stick. Oftentimes you think that's a time to go to the cage, but for Kavanaugh, I think he knows that it's going to allow him to get his hands free and become a predominant passer in that scenario. And then a nice hitch step by Chris Kavanaugh, low to high, far post. We talked earlier, the difference in players' ability to go high on the run is what takes you from good to great, and Chris Kavanaugh pulls it off in spectacular fashion.
No assist for Pat Kavanaugh, Matt. But for Chris, another goal, and Notre Dame extends to a 7-point lead. Chris Kavanaugh in the regular season went for 4 goals against Duke. Pat Kavanaugh had 4 in that game, and they did not give Pat an assist here. That graphic you saw was incorrect. But Chris Kavanaugh gets another tally, and the two brothers today have combined for 4 and 2.
Yeah, and again, look at that shot. Falling to the ground, low to high, to the far post, right? Deception. Very hard to shoot the ball from the low part of your stick release point to the top portion of the cage on the run. Typically, you'll see people do that with their feet still. Chris Kavanaugh, one of the few people in the country that can do that while running full speed.
That's a pretty good family lineage in South Bend. You know, Matt Kavanaugh, when he was there, getting Notre Dame to championship weekend a couple of times. Remember how close they came against Duke in that final in 2014. Some really, really good teams with he and Sergio Perkovic. And one of the great scenes from championship weekend last year after Notre Dame won its first title, to see the Kavanaugh brothers go see their brother Matt and their family in the stands, and an outpouring of emotion that it felt like that Notre Dame title was for every player who had ever worn an Irish jersey.
Yeah, the alumni base was incredibly proud and excited. They'd been so close so many times, and to finally get there. Imagine they're pretty excited right now as well, watching these last two performances from the Irish.
And think of how many times it was Duke that stood in their way. Twice in the championship, 2010, the overtime winner from C.J. Costabile. 2014, Jordan Wolfe sealed the game with the late goal using that straight line speed. Dinenza's shot saved by Entman. There was a quarterfinal on Long Island a few years ago. I think it was Joe Robertson scored on a change-up bounce shot in OT that sent Duke to championship weekend. O'Neal lost it. Chris Kavanaugh, he wears number 50. That's the number his big brother Matt wore. It's going to be interesting how both these teams now play the final 10-plus minutes of this game. You got a 7-goal lead. Two savvy veteran coaches who see the bigger picture.
It's a time to demonstrate your depth. If I'm Notre Dame, I'm probably initiating offense with that depth, maybe not your marquee players.
Or maybe not.
Foot, mouth.
Pat Kavanaugh says, eat it, Matt Ward.
Yep, knew that was coming. Again, Pat Kavanaugh has had success against Duke operating in front of the cage. Look, he quietly drifted up towards the straining box.
He was baiting you. That's what he was doing.
Look,
he was baiting you.
Give me enough time to say exactly the wrong thing at the wrong time. And right here, just a nice job. That pick. See how simple that is and subtle it is, right? Like the Bard taking one step underneath creates all that space and separation. And then again, the high to low on the run. The difference it makes when you're running north-south as a shooter with the ball in your stick on the run versus going east-west is remarkable, right? Like you get more power, you're more accurate. The goalie's on his heels rather than stepping out. It's all those little things that people don't think about that make the difference as a shooter. Like you have to bend into the cage if you're sweeping to the middle and take a couple going north-south.
You were there in Charlottesville a few weeks ago where he had that move coming down the alley, use that little rocker step again. Just that change of pace that you allude to.
But again, he's not the fastest player. I think I could say he's probably the toughest, right? Like just the grit that he shows is unmatched, but it's the understanding of the change of pace that he is remarkably good at.
Expelliarmus. Now face on. Bard got a piece.
I think Duke got away with one there. Still the first midfield.
Dobson the skip to McLean. Could not catch it clean. He gets whacked.
And that plays subtle right there, right? Because a lot of teams are shorting. They're shorting Dobson, right? And they're forcing him to his right because they don't think he's a great passer. That was a heck of a pass, right? So now you're thinking, all right, man, maybe we need to pull him because he is trying to beat us with his vision.
Shot clock violation. McGuire gets past face-on. Duke shorties, their top four have combined for 34 career goals. Zawada. Papendick. Sloat into the box. O'Neal now will operate from behind. O'Neal. Conlon got in the way. O'Neal just can't figure out this Notre Dame defense. 1 for 8 today.
And I'd love to see O'Neal
on the doorstep. Zawada, save Entman. You can do everything right, and he's the eraser.
Up 14-6. And Entenmann. Again, though, like, I was getting back to that O'Neal part. Like, I'd love to see him. He's so big and so physical. I don't think he uses his body quite as much as I'd like. For him dodging, working that 5-on-5, doing the question marks, really running in and creating separation by strength, maybe not just by the speed he has. Again, that shot there took a little too early, in my opinion. He had time to work on Conlon.
Off the ground, 50-50. It's number 50.
And I think we're going to stop saying the term 50-50.
Yeah, it's not.
It's just
It's bad math.
95-5 on any loose ball coming down in Notre Dame's favor.
.640 to go, quarter number 4. These teams were preseason number 1 and number 2, Notre Dame and Duke. The expectation tonight is they will be seeds number 1 and number 2 when the bracket is revealed at 9:30 p.m. After that, will it be Syracuse Hopkins in the 3-4 spot? And then what happens? Where does Denver slot? Virginia, which has cratered down the stretch and has lost 4 in a row. But none of those bad losses. Virginia has the Maryland win. Not really a whole lot other than that besides Maryland. Well, the Michigan win too. Now that looks better. They beat Michigan, the famous Pretty Boys game early in the season. I think you expect Virginia to be on a seed line. Well, Penn State's going to be interesting. Penn State, had they won the Big Ten tournament, I think they're a lock for a first-round home game, but their RPI fell out of the top 8. They're sitting at number 9. Not to say that they couldn't host a first-round game with an RPI of number 9, but again, last year, the only teams that hosted were the top 8 in RPI.
Right? Johns Hopkins lost, Syracuse lost, Virginia lost, Denver
Right,
lost.
nobody's
lost.
done anything to
Penn State
boost
lost.
their case.
The only 3 teams with wins, right? Give me Duke or Notre Dame. I guess Duke on Friday, but Penn State, or sorry, Penn.
Maybe today. Penn has to win today.
Correct, right? Like, so there's definitely been years, maybe a couple years ago, where it was like, man, there's gonna be some teams that can win it left off.
One more for the Irish. There's that depth again. Wilma Harris, sophomore attackman.
And again, straight pick behind the cage. Near side with that shot. Look at here. Gets Jamison dropping his stick. Keeps it to the top portion of the cage. And the depth. That's great. But Liam Entenmann has been every bit as great. Again, this is against Brennan O'Neal, the MVP of the World Games, that he has just been locked in and dialed. Every time he takes to the cage. Look at, I mean, it's, I know in the PLL, goalie matters, but maybe not as much as other players, just because the talents of the shooters. But, I mean, Liam Entenmann goes into that, and he is a starter, in my opinion, day 1 in the PLL. And again, like, look, goalies can get hot. It's his consistency. Like, has he ever had a bad game? Like, no. Like, he just, and in a game like this where he hasn't seen a lot of shots, like, yeah, maybe you kind of get caught napping. No.
Got 12 of 18 today. Rackhauer in goal for Duke. Buzenkill misses. Notre Dame has subbed out a lot of its regulars. Got Buzenkill, Angrick, Gray, the second midfield. Brock Behrman is in there, number 36. Fulton Bayman, number 2. But Harris, after scoring the goal, remains in, so that's your attack. Bayman's got a little shake to him. He's from Atlanta, Georgia, grad student. 3 torn ACLs between his junior year of high school and his first semester at Notre Dame.
Look, I mean, this is, right, the depth of Notre Dame, they're taking it to the Duke starting defense right now. Like, they just created opportunity after opportunity. Like, Notre Dame's practices must be off the charts, just fun to watch. And again, why do you think their defense is playing so well? Because you know what, when they're working on things 6-on-6 against the second teams of Notre Dame, that's a top 5 team in the country like that they're going across every day.
And Chris Wojcik was telling us pregame, hey, there's been a number of times this year where the backup attack with the third midfield, they take that first defense as lunch money.
Yeah.
Duke's got a lot of backups in as well. Mike Swerbalis, number 4. Ben Johnston still in there, the freshman. Alex Slusher, a 40-goal scorer on a Final Four team for Princeton 2 years ago, getting into the game. They've got Sloat in there. Antiman still in cage for the Irish. That shot off the mark. Less than 3 minutes to go. In a year where a bulk of the ACC teams camped out in the top 5 nationally for most of the season, Notre Dame is about to go 6-0 against conference competition.
Yeah, just remarkable. A couple weeks ago, people identify, hey, maybe there's some weaknesses on this team that can be exposed. Not the case. Good God. I mean,
it doesn't end.
Look, I mean, what?
Bryce Walker, the Texas Ranger.
Did you see that first step? Again, this was a player that got tons of time a year ago. Not seeing as much action this year, and Coach Danowski shaking his head, but look at this right here. Again, just great team offense. Hard plant, boom. The separation and the finish. Bryce Walker. Again, all day, everything has been effortless for this Notre Dame team. Everything coming easily.
When you and I showed up here Friday afternoon, I don't think any of us expected 3 blowouts this weekend. And that's what we've seen. Friday, Notre Dame spanked Virginia. Duke did the same to Syracuse, and now Notre Dame laying it on Duke here in this ACC final. 8 different goal scorers for Notre Dame today. They had 14 on Friday night.
How disappointing.
You know, in a game where it's essentially top 5, can you think of a game that's had 14 different goal scorers the way we saw Friday night?
None come to mind.
You know, if you're playing one of those programs that you invite to your place early in the season to beat their brains out, maybe, when everybody plays, but...
I mean, 14 is ridiculous. And the stat that was insane, crazy, was attack, first midfield, second midfield, long stick, defense, every position on the field got a goal as well.
Alex Zepp digs it out, and the Irish have to just run out the final minute here in Charlotte. They're getting used to coronations. They had one on Memorial Day last year. They'll get one in Charlotte in the ACC Championship. And they will be not just the favorite, but an overwhelming favorite once the bracket is released tonight. They will be the #1 seed. That is the one thing we know going into tonight. The expectation, I think, is Duke is the #2. Some combination of Syracuse and Hopkins should follow. A lot of teams had opportunities to move up and better their case. Most of them lost. And Matt, this says a lot about Notre Dame because they were probably the one team this weekend that probably had the least to play for. They could have lost Friday and still would have had a great shot to be the 1 seed. It looked like the team that had the most to play for. It tells you how focused this team is going into May.
Right, and again, it starts with Liam Entenmann in the cage, always being focused. It starts with Pat Cavanaugh running through 3-4 people every practice to get a ground ball. If they're not giving the same energy, the same level of effort that he does, he's going to be on him. Like, this is a team that is now operating like a well-oiled machine on all levels of the field.
They are the ACC tournament champions. Notre Dame strings together dominant wins. Friday, they did it against Virginia. Today, they beat Duke by 10 in a rematch of last year's national championship. Up next, ACC baseball, Pittsburgh and Notre Dame. For Matt Ward and Marilyn Payne, I'm Anish Shroff. So long from Charlotte.